to share details of the XAT exam, the strategy that you must follow while attempting the XAT, and what you should be doing in the 5 weeks between CAT and XAT. Let's start by getting to know XAT better. 3 sections. The first, verbal, 26 questions. Second, decision making, a section unique to XAT, 21 questions. Third section, QA and DI combined, 28 questions. These are a total of 75 questions and you get 165 minutes to attempt them. That is 2 hours 45 minutes. You are free to move across all the 75 questions in this 165 minutes. So not only are you free in deciding which order the sections need to be attempted, but you're also free to move across these sections as and when you want. So you can revisit a section also, right? That's part 2 to the exam. 15 minutes you get to solve 25 GK questions. The marks of part 2 are not included in finding the percentile or in giving the interview call letters. They have a relevance only in the final admit for XLRI. The other allied institutes are free to use the GK scores as they wish. Let's get more insight into XAT, starting with the cutoffs. Just like CAT, XAT also has sectional cutoffs. And these sectional cutoffs are dependent on 2 factors. One, which program you're applying to. There are 2 programs, HR, Human Resources, and BM, Business Management, for specializations like finance, marketing, operation. The cutoff is different for the 2 programs. In verbal, HR has a higher cutoff, whereas in decision making and business management, BM program has a higher cutoff. Okay, I'll write and give you the specific numbers. The second factor cutoffs depend upon is the gender of the candidate. So with females having a lower percentile cutoff than males. I can almost hear the boys groaning. Wait till you hear this. The difference between the percentile cutoff for boys and girls, the difference hovers around 5 percentile, and for certain combination of gender and program the difference is higher than 10 percentile also. So these numbers that we are talking about, XAT publicizes its percentile cutoffs. So the numbers that I'm putting here now are accurate numbers. I've just rounded them off so that you don't have to, take trouble remembering the exact number. So the verbal cutoff varies between 75 percentile to 85 percentile. And in verbal, as I said, HR has a higher percentile. So, and between gender, who has a higher percentile? Boys. So boys applying for HR will have a sectional cutoff of 85 percentile. Girls for HR program will be having, let's say, 5 less, around 80 percentile. Okay, and the lower this is for business management, but it's the lowest, so this is for girls. Girls in business management will have about 75 percentile cutoff. Boys in business management would need around 80 percentile cutoff, right? Hope you got the idea, right? In decision making, the accuracy in decision making is very poor, students. Even the answer key that is shared by various institutes have huge differences in the answers given, right? So the accuracy being low, the scores are pretty low in DM, and the sectional cutoffs are range between 70 to 80. This time the BM program has a higher percentile cutoff. So boys for BM program will have 80 percentile cutoff. Girls for BM program will have 75 percentile cutoff, right? Girls for HR program would have 70 percentile cutoff, and boys for HR would have 75. Quant and DI, here is the surprise, yeah. Quant, the lowest percentile is as low as 67 percentile, students. And remember, this is percentile. The number is so low that it almost gets confused with percentage of questions. No, it is percentile, just 67 percentile. And if you want to understand how low is 67 percentile, I'll be converting these cutoffs to marks, because only then you would make sense. The 67 percentile is as low as 6.5 marks. So in quant, if I just get 7 marks, but girls for HR. Boys for HR would need around 72 percentile. And interesting bit, the cutoff is as high as 90 percentile for BM program, boys applying to BM program. Girls applying to BM program, the cutoff is 75 percentile, a difference of almost 15 percentiles there. Okay, so just take the range, students. You're not going to target a specific percentile that you're going to get, right? So just get a broad idea of the range, and that's it. Don't sit and do a lot of analysis and just give for my category, for me, and for which program what will be the cutoff, right? Just think of the higher ones. That's the best way. Marks, let's convert them to marks. Here it's important to realize that each question carries just 1 mark, so the scores appear on absolute terms very low, unlike CAT where every question has 3 marks, right? So here it is 8 to 10. Remember, this conversion to marks is our opinion based on experience. Okay, there could be a margin of error here, though I've erred on the higher side, so that if you don't keep your targets very low just because I gave a low number. These are on the higher end, so these are safe numbers. For DM, the marks would be as low as 7 to 9, depending on the program and the gender. And for quant, it could be 6.5 to 10.5, students. So if you're a boy applying to BM program, you would need to score at least 10.5 in quant and DI. And again, let me also try to convert these to attempts, so that you have a clear goal post what you're supposed to do. But the moment I get attempts into picture, there's another factor that comes in, that of accuracy. Okay, so this attempts has and I'm taking it at an 80% accuracy level. And obviously accuracy is different for different sections. I factored that in. For verbal, I've taken 80. For DM, it is just 75 I've taken. And for quant, I've taken 85. So I'm just putting it 80 here. But then you do this analysis yourself at your accuracy level that you target. Someone gets good accuracy, someone even feels 80 is a high number, right? So either keep these the net marks as your goal, or you want to translate into attempts, use your own accuracy number. With 80% accuracy number and the negative marking, I'll talk about negative marking also. This would translate to an attempts of 12 to 15. This translates 11 to 14, and this translates from 10 to 16. 10 to 16. So if you can manage a 85 percentile accuracy in quant, you're a boy targeting BM program, you need to attempt at least 16. Okay, remember, I'll again put this down. These are your bare minimum attempts. Okay, what? To clear sectional cutoffs. This does not mean that you will get a call. So these are only the sectional cutoffs that I'm talking about. You miss any of this, you'll not get a call. You pass all of this, it's not necessary that you get a call. Yeah, it's wrong. There are people who feel that I get the sectional, I clear sectional cutoff, I'll get a call. No, students. From the pool of all the people who got sectional cutoffs cleared, only the top few students will be called. And that is where the overall percentile comes into picture, and which is important. And thankfully this time the range is not as wide as this for either boys or girls. The range is just 93 percentile to 96 percentile. But this is still far more comfortable than the 99.5 percentile and above that you need for older IIMs. And remember, XLRI is at par with a lot of older IIMs, okay? And so at least this looks far more comfortable. This is your BM percentile cutoff. This is your HR girls 93, HR boys 94, BM girls 95, BM boys 96 percentile. And in marks, this will translate to between 32 to 35. Okay, means 93 will be 32, 96 will be 35, and remember, just as a perspective, a 40 marks is going to be equivalent to a 99 percentile in XAT. Is this on the screen? Yes. And if I want to convert this again to attempts, straight 32 to 35 still looks okay, but again I would draw your attention to these are net marks. You get your accuracy into picture and these attempts go as high as students 45 to 49. And now you can see the difficulty. Out of 75 questions, we are talking about almost 50 questions, 2/3 of the paper you need to attempt. Okay, even if you take 45, 15 threes are, 15 fives are, 3/5, 60% of the paper you need to attempt if you want to have a reasonable chance of getting a call. Okay, so it is definitely not going to be a cakewalk, that either, students. Yeah, it is as difficult as CAT actually. Quite a lot of students feel that it's more difficult also. Okay, strategy of taking the paper. So if I look at the average number of questions, just for clearing the sectional cutoffs, 27 by 2, 13.5, and 12.5, that is 26, 26 and 13, 39. Just in ensuring that I clear the sectional cutoffs, I end up doing on an average 39 questions attempting. But to receive a interview call, overall I need to do, let's say the average is 47. 39 I've already done, I have to do 47. So these, and I have to do 8 more questions. So where am I going to get these 8 questions? Sectional cutoff you have to clear, no choice. But do you have a choice in this? Yes, and that is where strategy comes into play. And my clear suggestion is, in QA, just clear cutoff. Do not try to get these extra 8. Okay, and these extra 8, try to get them from verbal and DM. Now this is almost a prescription, and here I am saying this is true for everyone. Even if you count Quant as your strength, I would still say don't try to maximize your score here. I'm writing it, don't try to maximize. Okay, and in fact spend all your time, try to maximize your score in verbal and decision making. What is this maximizing and so on? So here it becomes important for us to understand that XAT allows you the freedom to spend time whichever way you want. And this is a huge advantage if you can use it well. Okay, unlike CAT, in CAT, you are restricted, you are constrained to spend the 40 minutes in this section only, whether that section is your strength or weakness. So you can't move to another one. So the only thing that you can do is maximize your score in each and every section. However, in XAT, you are free to move. So why should everyone has a comparative advantage in one of the section vis-a-vis the other section. Okay, and so why should I spend proportionate time in all the 3 sections when I'm free to choose? That is what I said. Use the freedom to spend time the way you want to your fullest advantage. Okay, and that fullest advantage for everyone, students, is to try to maximize the score, spend more time here, and in QA just clear the cutoff, even if QA is your strength. Okay, so this is how I would look at overall. Now for the rationale, why should I be focusing more on DM and verbal rather than QA? And the answer lies in looking at how the QA section has been in the past. I had done a detailed breakup of the last 4 years at 17, 18, 19, 20 into different level of difficulties of question, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 level of difficulties. I wanted to present the table, but when I made that table, I was pretty scared. Looking at it, I'm pretty sure a lot of students would be demotivated. So suffice to just say that sitter questions that can be done like this, and also easy to identify. They are easy, they are very easy to solve, but you should also be able to identify those questions where only 1 or 2 in every paper. That's it. So if I scan the full paper in CAT, where I can get almost 4 or 5 such questions, in XAT I'll not get more than 2 such questions. Okay, there are other easy questions. But they are very, very difficult to identify. This observation, students, identify that I'm talking. I'm going to spend a lot of time on this now. But before that, these questions were as few as 5 to 6. So in all, they are just 8 in numbers, easy questions. Okay, and all the rest of questions, look at these words, they require a lot of courage to attempt them. So these questions, once you read them, it will never be clear, should I do it, should I not do it? It will always be tough call. Okay, and not just that, it will require good nerves of steel. Yeah, you need to be very calm and composed to finish the questions. The questions are going to go, the solution is going to be a little, you need to use all your skills, all your knowledge. There are twists and turns in the solution, and you really need to be very, very confident of yourself to take up solving that question and solve them. And that identity, why does this happen, students? It was almost, all of us used to think that XAT questions are far more lengthier. They have far more data than CAT questions. So to confirm that, we counted the number of words used in the questions for CAT and XAT. And what is found is, for XAT, on an average, you have 83 words per question. Versus if you look at CAT QA, and this is only about QA, so let me put that also, CAT. If I look at CAT QA, it is only 42 words per question. So look at the stark difference for the same in same quant. XAT questions on an average are twice as lengthier as CAT questions are. So not only do they take a lot more time to read, but then because they're more, the data also gets a little more complex. Yeah, it's given in a very roundabout way. Nothing is given straightforward. And to give this in a more better perspective, in a typical A4 sheet of paper, in your regular font size of 10, 11, 12, one line holds 15 to 16 words. So this means 5 lines every question. On an average, that question is made up of 5 lines. So therefore, I'm using these words continuously. So I think XAT QA is decently tough. And if this doesn't scare you enough, Let me also come to topics. The topics in XAT. XAT can have questions from any topic. Okay, so there is nothing that XAT has not experimented with. So, for example, CAT has very rarely given questions on probability. You all know that. Now, a lot of people suggest that for XAT, steady probability, it's important. I'll come to it in a moment, right? But I'm just saying probability, trigonometry, coordinate, installments, you name it, and XAT has sometimes or the other given questions on it. So remember, questions can be from any topic, and what is more interesting is there is not more than one question from a topic. So obviously I'm not counting entire algebra as a topic, but functions, there would not be more than one questions on functions. Okay, in CAT you have seen quite often that almost 3-4 questions you can get on functions or the same, right? Here that doesn't happen. So coming back to that probability, because of this fact, I don't really see any advantage in doing probability. There would just be one question, if at all there is. At first it's not certain. If it is there, just one. So how does one question give you any advantage? I fail to understand that. If there's one, so let's go ahead and level of questions. Again, it could be any level, including very difficult ones also. So even if there is a probability question, and what if the question turns out to be a very difficult one? So you have spent a lot of time studying probability, and suddenly that's of not much use in your exam because the question was in berserk, totally out of the world. And XAT has surprised us with the kind of difficult questions it has asked. I don't want to give XAT questions because I want you to practice XAT mocks on your own. But as an example, some common puzzle, like there's a question which says stick breaks into 3 pieces randomly. What is the probability that a triangle can be formed at it? So these are types. So probability question linked with a geometry theory, anything could happen there. Right, so I don't think so you can bank on any of them. Coordinate geometry, look at a few questions that have come in the past of coordinate geometry, last year questions. They are very tough to solve, very time consuming. You have to solve simultaneous equations where the coefficients themselves are given in variables. Okay, so do that, you'll realize what I want to say, right, of this. So what else here? So also one more, DI. Now DI here is very unpredictable, right? When I say unpredictable, what I mean is one, the numbers are not fixed, so it could be anything from 4-5 questions to 7-8 questions, 2 sets, 3 sets, and there has been certain graphs or years where the graph that you get is incomprehensible. You get a bouncer. Like this one year, there was this graph which had 7 different variables which were correlated, and there was histograms given, and they did not explain what an histogram is, and they said which of this variable has 2 modes, mode as in that statistics part, modes, right? And then they had correlation, they had correlation coefficients given, but they did not use this word, they just used the word relation without explaining. So I am saying that was enough to put off any student. That said, overall might not be difficult, but just seeing that graphs, they were all regression lines fitted into a scatter plot, that is enough to demotivate a student, or he'll not touch it also. So it's very unpredictable, students, right? So because of all these facts, I don't think so that one should be banking too much on quant. So when I start a test or so on, I would start definitely the test with an idea or a strategy of that my maximum, at least preparing in these 5, 6, 4 weeks that I have for that, I would prepare more time on verbal or DM, because that's going to be far more productive than QA. Right? No point spending more time. Obviously, there's no such topic which you can master in 2 or 3 weeks. So if I don't know trigonometry, I would suggest just leave the trigonometry, because the question is also going to be, trigonometry is again a vast field, no? How much can you build a competence in 3 weeks? I don't think so. That's a good choice, right? So what should you be doing in the 4 weeks for quant? Only thing is practice questions from XAT actual papers that have come in the past. You will get to know the difficulty level. You will have some good idea, familiarity with how to solve them, and that's about it. Verbal and decision making. This is why you need to maximize your score. And why is it possible? Because verbal has a huge variety of questions. Huge variety. So unlike CAT, which has become very, very skewed, only RC questions predominant. The other ones like parajumbles are without options. Summary based questions have decent subjectivity involved. But here you have questions which are straight based upon your grammar. Grammar errors, the standard ones. Sometimes these errors are as simple as in parallelism. A line is given in 4 or 5 different ways, and which of them is perfect. So the questions are not very tough over here, or subject verb agreement errors are there. So I think so it's a pretty doable one. So you have questions on vocabulary. You have a type fill in the blanks, and those fill in the blanks could either be vocab based or they're simple English usage based. By English usage, what do I mean? They're just based upon prepositions, effect. Now these are not even vocab words, right? It's just general usage. You should know when to use effect, when to use effect, or transition words. So I think so it's a very comfortable scoring place there. What else? You have you have reading comprehension, obviously, and whenever reading comprehension comes, this point comes in, there's a poem. One of the passages is a poem. Yes, it is a poem, but it does not really change a lot of stuff. A pointer towards how do you spend 1 day preparing, or take all the previous years XAT. Thankfully, students, XAT papers are available from 2008 to 2020. So there are 13 question papers. So in these 2 weeks, students, if you just solve a paper and analyze it one every day, still 2 weeks are consumed here. Okay, so I'll say take all of them, collect all the poem RCs that have been asked, sit and understand it thoroughly in 1 day. What? A poem is just that it can be interpreted in a lot more ways, right? It uses words to represent something else in the real world. Yeah, that's an analogy or so on. So these are just overall ideas that I'm giving you. So frame your whole idea. Okay, maybe reading the poem you might not get a lot of meaning, but when you read the question and when you read the options, that is the time when you start understanding, oh, what is the author, or at least the question paper setter, what is he interpreting from the poem? Oh, he's using this word as a representative of something else, right? So I think so you should do that. Yeah, the next day sit, read, go on the net, read a few of the classic poems, see, compare notes. There would be some spark notes, or there would be some understanding of the poem. Build that. So 2 days goes out over there. But then it would be far more productive than spending time in a new QA topic. Okay, so do such things in your preparation. What else? Just critical reasoning, a very nice scoring topic. Yeah, and all your standard theory of critical reasoning, conclusions, assumptions. So I think so there's a lot less subjectivity involved here than the summary types or so on. So I think so again, if you have ignored grammar or critical reasoning because they were not very heavy in CAT, then now is the time that you need to spend a day, or as in grammar can be done in couple of days. CR you need at least to spend 4-5 days solve all CR questions from your official guide of GMAT, it would be much scoring. So I think so this is where you should be spending your these 3 weeks, 4 weeks. What else? In decision making. Now I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the types of questions in decision making. You can get that from a lot of videos, or anyways you're going to attempt these question papers, so you'll get an first-hand idea. All I'll say is that they are case study kind of a thing. Or more importantly, the salient features is, for me, the big thing that stands out in decision making is decision making on an average, each question has 144 words per question. And if I want to again translate this into an average number of lines, I've already said 16 words per line. So that makes it 9 lines per question. Okay, so if I have a set of 3 questions, so the 3 questions means it is a 27 lines per set. So this is almost, for me, it is a question of how good can your reading and comprehension be. Right? Your first thing has to be reading. So what I'm trying to build here is, throughout the XAT paper, students, whether it's verbal, whether it is decision making, whether it is quant, there is a lot to read. Read. So that is one skill that you need to possess. How fast can you read, and how well can you comprehend in one reading? It will help you lots. Now it's unfortunate that that can't be done in 3-4 weeks time. But make a start somewhere. You'll have to improve your reading speed, right? So this is of more importance to me. You know, each question long. So you will not realize how time passes. Right? These are the takeaways that we are. So once we have a fact, what is its relevance? You will not realize how quickly time passes. And remember, time management is on your shoulders. So you mess up a little time management. So what happens is, it's an advantage if you can use it to your benefit. Right? But then the disadvantage of time management lying on your shoulders is, if you do not manage it well, you might end up reaching the third section with very little time left, and you'll be worried. The third section is quant. Anyways, it's a tough one. You'll be hugely worried about clearing the cutoff. And if you don't clear the quant cutoff, which is anyways higher than for all these sections, okay, so you'll not get a call. So the strategy of attempting the paper becomes all the more important, and for them you need to realize all these small points of how one of the important thing in this should be quickly keep moving ahead. So how do you prepare for DM? Students, in these 13 question paper, you are going to get about 140 DM questions. The only way to do is collect these 140 DM questions and practice them. It is going to take you a decent amount of time. Okay, and there is no theory of decision making anywhere in the world. So the best that you can do is, you can look at the answers and try to make sense of how to find options which are very extreme, of how to limit yourself to the facts given, how to focus more on the objective that is asked in the passage rather than your gut feel or any of such random logics. So there's one more point when we talk about these two sections that I want to talk, and again a very significant one. So you must be aware that there is negative marking for unattempted questions at the rate of 0.1 per question beyond 8 unattempted questions. Now, a point here that a lot of people suggest is that one should ignore this fact, because if you take this into account and because there is negative marking, you randomly mark something, the chances of you getting it wrong is high, and instead of minus 0.1 you'll end up getting minus 0.25, because a wrong answer gets a minus 0.25. So there are a few of them who suggest that just ignore this point and continue the paper as if this point doesn't exist. Well, that may not be the best the use of this point. It can be used very intelligently. How? Rather than me suggesting you, I'll show it to you. It will appear far more convincing. So we have verbal decision making QA, the total number of questions. Let's look at the number of attempts that we have thought about. To clear the sectional cutoffs, I need 12 to 15, on an average 13 and a half. Let's say 4 more questions to get to that overall 96 percentile. 13 and a half, 14 and a half, and 4, 17 and a half. Let's round it to 18, higher up. Here, attempts need to be 11 to 14, 12 and a half on an average, plus 4, 16 and a half. Let's round it down to 16. And here I need to attempt 10 to 16. We said 16 at the higher end. So this is what I'm attempting. So let's look at the unattempted. And in the unattempted, you'll have 18, 8 unattempted, here 5 unattempted, 12 unattempted, total marks 13, 12, 25. So 25 questions. 8 of them will not be penalized, 17 will be penalized at this rate, so you'll get minus 1.7. Here, whatever you have attempted, you'll get some marks, I do not know, based upon your accuracy or so on, and you'll get a minus 1.7 marks. So this is what will end up. Now, versus what I'm suggesting is, in sections like verbal and decision making, almost for all the questions, whether it's a grammar question, whether it's a fill in the blank question, whether it's an RC question, CR question, I'm pretty sure 2 options can be eliminated. Even for all decision making questions, two options can very comfortably be eliminated. I hope you agree, right? So a lot of time in RC and so on, we have this, I could narrow it down to 2 choices. If you can narrow it down to 2 choices, excellent. I'm saying even if you can narrow it down to 3 choices out of the 5. Okay, in XAT there are 5 choices, yeah? You narrow it down to 3. I would suggest that in verbal and DM, please mark one of them, even if you're not certain. So these are the ones that I'm saying where you're given it your reasonable best and you're marking where you are thinking that my accuracy level is going to be more than 80%. I'm saying in the unattempted ones, which you would be tempted to leave out, I would still say mark it. So let's compare, and let's say you don't do it for everything. So let's say you have attempted, I'm saying these 18 that you would do, and out of these, let's say you attempt 5 more. So the unattempted ones are going to be 3. You have done 16 once, but to reach your percentile, 5 more is there. Let's say you attempt 3 of them. So 2 is left. Some questions of DM or grammar you might not make any sense, so just leave them if you can't eliminate any options. But the others you should attempt them. In Quant, it is not possible, students. In Quant, it's very difficult to eliminate 2 options. Either you get a question or you don't get it. Yeah, very, very rarely can you eliminate options over there, right? So I'll just leave it as it is. So you attempt 16 questions, nothing more, and 12 questions are left unattempted. So let's compare this scenario. Here, whatever marks you're going to get that X marks as before. There's no difference there. Now, here you have 8 more attempts. Let's look at the negative marking first, unattempted. 12 and 5, 17 questions. 8 will go unpenalized. You will be penalized is 9. 9, you'll get a minus 0.9. Okay, so let's put this. Now, in these 8 questions that you have attempted, I'm saying a pretty worst scenario is that out of the 8, you get 7 of them you get wrong and only 1 you get correct. Is there space enough? Yeah, let me write it a little above. So out of these 8 questions, 7 of them you get wrong and 1 you get right. Now, if all 8 you get wrong, then there's no point in this analysis. Then you're obviously at a disadvantage, right? But I'm saying even if you get just 1 of them right, and remember, these are not random guesses. I'm coming back and telling you you're doing that only in questions where you have eliminated 2 extreme choices, right? Okay, so then also what's going to happen in here, you're going to get a minus 1.75. Here you're going to get a plus 1. So the net of it is going to be just a minus 0.75. So your score is going to be your x minus 0.75 and minus 0.9 is going to be x minus 1.65. So even in as bad scenario as getting only 1 out of the 8 correct, you end up being in a better position than the previous score. Right? Minus 0.75 and minus 0.9 is going to be 1.65. And so your downside, in fact, there's no downside. Even if you get 1 of them right, you end up being in a better score. But the upside is, let's say on the other hand, if you get 5 of them correct or only 3 wrong, 3 wrong, 5 of them correct. Yeah, you can be even more luckier. I'm just taking somewhere a little to the better of the middle. So that 3 wrong will end up being minus 0.75. The 5 correct will end up with a plus 5. So you are going to get a plus 4.5. Sorry, 4.25. And a minus 0.9. So your net score is going to be that x and plus 3.35, and instead of x minus 1.7 you have x plus 3.35. That means your score has gone up by 5 marks, and 5 marks is a huge thing, students. 5 marks is a big difference here, right? So so I hope you appreciate this analysis there. So the message is, because there is also negative marking for unattempted, the risk involved in taking an educated guess is not as high, students. Even if you don't take a risk of that, you'll still end up with negative, right? So I would surely suggest that in the 2 sections of verbal and decision making, I would be going ahead and any question, it's also a question of time saving. Trying to be precise between 2 options, you might end up spending more time. So rather than that, I would just recollect this analysis and say, is it worthwhile spending more time than trying to get 1 of them correct? Or rather, I'll just mark 1 of them and move ahead. Right? So it does make a huge difference to the way you attempt your paper, right? So that's all that I have to say in that. So spend the remaining days, I think so, building up skills in verbal, in decision making. Spend good number, full 2 weeks in only sitting and analyzing every individual question of an actual XAT paper that has come. Spend 2 days learning all about poems that you can. Decision making, spend another 2-3 days on just decision making, and take mocks. Spend a lot of time in identifying what is the ideal time distribution. How do you, these markings that you do, you should not be doing it at the end. While you are going through the paper, you should be doing it. Yeah, there's no coming back or so on in that case, right?